And welcome back to Love Your Food. This week we have a recipe for a delicious and pretty simple Black Forest cake. Now, before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone that we have an affiliate link with Chef's Temp. If you need a kitchen thermometer or meat probe, please check out the link in the description below and use code LOVEYOURFOOD on checkout for 15% off your order. We also have a Patreon if you'd like to support us there. Please check that out also in the description below, and please like and subscribe. In the meantime, here's our ingredients. So we have some chocolate cake. Use your favorite one. We made some and froze it. Some whipping cream, some baker's chocolate, some sugar. We have some frozen fresh cherries, and a little bit of cognac. Now, the first thing we're going to do is make our cherry filling. If you would like to use just regular cherry pie filling, canned cherry pie filling, you can. What we have here is we had some beautiful fresh Ontario sour cherries that we bought this summer, and I pitted them and we froze them. So these are our frozen fresh Ontario sour cherries, and we're just going to make our own filling out of these. So the sugar and the cherries go into the pot, and we're just going to let those simmer together until they are quite reduced. We want them to reduce quite a lot. Now we're making kind of a mini Black Forest cake here. The classic Black Forest cake is chocolate cake with cherries and whipping cream or whipped cream. And we are going to keep going until you can see here they're nice and thick now. And to this, we're just going to add a little tiny bit of our cognac. We just want that nice sort of rich, slightly boozy flavor in there. We're not going to add a whole lot. All the amounts are going to be in the description below. So we're going to add that in. We've taken this off the heat, so the element is off now. So we're just going to stir that in and let that sit. And you can see how beautiful that is. Lots of flavor in there. It's the sugar with the sour cherries and a little bit of tang. Now, we made a little sort of impromptu cake mold. If you've got the metal cake molds, you can use those. We just made a little paper one where you roll up your paper in the size of your cake rounds. And this will help keep everything in place. So we're going to add in one of our cake rounds. And these are still frozen. Like I said, we just made our favorite, chocolate cake recipe. And we froze rounds of it so that we can do this later. And they're still frozen. We're going to add in our cherry, which has cooled. This is down to room temperature. And then we're going to add a little bit of vanilla paste to the sugar. And we're going to get our whipped cream ready. So in goes the whipping cream. And we are going to take our stick blender and just really quickly whip that. You can whip the whipped cream by hand if you'd prefer. I honestly don't recommend the canned whipped cream for this because it's very light and airy, and you want something that's a little more dense. You want something that's a little heavier, and if you get to use your vanilla paste and get those nice little vanilla pips in there, it's just kind of a bonus. So you want to get your whipped cream in there first. Then we're going to add a little bit of the juice from the cherries onto our next slice, and that's going to go in on top of the whipped cream. Now, you do want to make sure that all of your slices of cake are as level as they can be. And if they're not very level, you may want to try and keep track of where the uneven parts are so that you can stack them in a way that keeps them level if you can. Your better bet would be just to level everything off as you're using them. So in goes another layer of the cherries, another layer of the whipped cream. And we're going to do one last layer of cake. So this is going to be a nice, tall, skinny cake. It's kind of a little mini cake. And we're going to just divide this into 3 for 3 people. And in goes the last slice of cake. And then on top, a little bit more of that beautiful cherry juice. Now we're not going to add more of the cherries on top, but we are going to top this off with a little bit of the whipped cream. Now we're going to reserve some of the whipped cream to go around the outside as well. And that's going to make a nice sort of coating on the outside before we drizzle our ganache over top. And that's going to be our next step. So once we're finished making this look kind of smooth on top, it's going to go into the freezer for a little while. And you can put it in the freezer either in the wrap or not in the wrap, whatever works for you. However you do it, when it comes out of the freezer, then you're going to add your nice whipped cream coating on the sides. So once it's all sort of solidified and it's nice and steady and stable, you're going to just put the whipped cream on the side. And you can see here, it looks really nice. It stays nice and stuck to everything. It's going to coat it very nicely. It helps if the cake is cold. Now, you may not want it to be frozen, but it helps if it's cold. Now, for the ganache, we're going to chop up our baker's chocolate, and you can use whatever. We prefer bittersweet. And then we're going to microwave our heavy cream for a little while. So again, this is the same. This is just whipping cream again. And we're going to add that into our chocolate, and we're just going to stir that together. So the hot cream in the chocolate, we're going to stir that. We've got a chopstick, and then we're going to switch over to a scraper in a little while until it's nice and smooth, and all the little bits of chocolate have melted into the cream. And this is going to, you want to make sure, one thing you do want to make sure is that you don't introduce any water into this, because if you introduce any water, it's going to seize and you're going to get lumpy, chunky chocolate. So you want to make sure you're not introducing any water. And this is going to sort of slowly tighten up and make a nice thick ganache coating for this. Now, when you're pouring this over your cake, you definitely want to have a rack beneath it to catch any drips or anything. You just don't want it on your counter or whatever. It's going to make a huge mess. So we're just going to put that over a rack. And then, as I said, this is a sort of a mini cake. We're just going to cut this into 3. And you can see we take this apart. And it's still nice and cold. We did put this back into the freezer for a little while. So it is still nice and cold and everything's nice and stable. And there's your beautiful Black Forest cake. And you can see all those nice layers in there. We've got layers of cake and cherry, that nice sour cherry, and the whipping cream. And that's it. That's the whole thing. Really, really simple. Absolutely delicious. This has always been one of my favorite cakes, the Black Forest cake with the nice cherries and the whipped cream, and it's really, really good. So we hope you'll give this one a try. If you like this recipe, please do like and subscribe, and if you have any recipes you'd like to see Chef Caleb try on the channel, please let us know in the comments below. We'd like to thank our patrons over on Patreon. If you'd like to support us there, I'll put a link for that in the description below as well. And remember to love your food.